Have you ever felt like there are some people around you with whom you always feel small, guilty, or emotionally drained after a conversation? Do you repeatedly think that you were fine, but still regret something, panic, or doubt yourself? Perhaps you are thinking that you are not toxic, but in reality there is someone around you who is playing mind games, slowly controlling you, and you do not even know. This story is not just about India, Pakistan, or the third world. Toxic people are the most dangerous in modern and open culture like the USA, because their everything happens in a more subtly, cultivated, and psychologically. Toxic people may be your friend, romantic partner, boss, or someone close in the family, but their biggest special power is to weave the web of psychology, make the other person doubt themselves, feel themselves victim, and even while manipulating, do not understand where the problem is. The mind game of toxic people is never straightforward and obvious. Instead of direct fighting, shooting, abuse, or insult, they hack your basic system of thinking and understanding. These people use techniques such as emotional manipulation, silence, overpraise, guilt trip, jealousy, and contradiction, which are extremely difficult for a normal person to understand. The biggest success is to create doubt, confusion, and emotional addiction in your mind. Nowadays, people in America, of course, live in the midst of therapists, podcasts, self-help gurus. But the most common truth is that no one speaks openly about toxic mind games, because many people themselves are secretly manipulating others, or are afraid that the truth may not come out. Toxic people slow down your self-worth, forcing you to defend, justify, apologize every time. Sometimes they will initially seem to be smiling, giving you advice, questioning the most honest, or pretending your goodness. But inside they make you a puppet, get you away from thinking of yourself, trapped in your cycle of doubt and guilt. The first victims of the mind game are those who are naturally empathetic, gentle, or thoughtful. In Western countries like the US, where people look outwardly independent and confident, they become the most susceptible victims of toxic mind games because they have been taught since childhood to keep your peace, don't fight. Always try to see the good in people. Here the first mind game works. Gaslighting, making reality false, doubting own perception. Toxic humans will make you a devotee of something that is never part of your experience. Example: if you say you hurt me, he will say, you think everything is wrong. I have no such memory, or you live mentally very unstable nowadays. Gradually the victim loses confidence in himself. His memories, decisions, and conscience all begin to waver. Result: now it becomes infinitely easy to fool, use, and abuse toxic man. The second trick of the mind game is silent treatment and emotional withholding. Toxic people suddenly make you stonewall. Stop talking to you. Don't answer the phone, social avoidance, or cold attitude. Never be enveloped in complete silence between conversations. No reply, leave you on hang for weeks. People think, maybe a person is busy, but it's actually a game of punishment and control. Your mind starts to become restless, guilty, and low self-esteem. Again and again it seems that you yourself did something wrong. The third most creepy mind game: guilt-tripping emotional blackmail. Toxic people will always make you feel indirectly responsible. Every time your little happiness will also look heavy from their pain or loneliness. He will say, I did all the sacrifice for you. Now you can't even do that much. Or if you really did care, I would never hurt. There are so many toxic parents, partners, or friends in the US. And every time, he or she plays with his or her wounds. Drop like a guilty bomb on your simple decision. Result: you forget your own needs, do what the other needs. The real fatality of toxic people is that they never show their mind games as harassing, abusive, or violent. They execute every single move with the finesse that, when viewed from the outside, you feel that you are overreacting, or maybe you are the problem. In the US, especially in immigrant families or in corporate office culture, this manipulation becomes even more difficult to identify, because it hides the real intention behind social etiquettes, sophistics, and "I'm just telling the truth." The fourth largest weapon in the mind game is triangulation divide rule. Toxic people deliberately create comparison, jealousy, or misunderstanding among others so that you feel insecurity, competition, and difference. For example, a boss, romantic partner, or friend repeatedly tells you, "Look how hardworking you are. I wish you were too." Or "I didn't have to endure all this in my old relationship. It only happens to you." Or create tension, jealousy, or conflict with indirect or direct comments between two friends, siblings, or coworkers. So that in the end, everyone will only be engaged in a campaign to get the validation, approval, or favor of the same toxic person. Actual bonding, teamwork, or mutual trust leads to doubt. The worst part, triangulation gradually begins to eat your identity, self-respect, and peace. In social circles, you often start to feel outsider, like you have no sharing, no belonging. The power of toxic manipulator is hidden in this divide rule. Keep everyone in your gravity. Tear everyone's loyalty apart. Now the fifth trick of the mind game, blame shifting victim game. Every time a toxic person asks a question, highlight his/her mistake. She goes into poor me mode. "I was right. It's all my luck," he said. Or direct blame shift. "I don't understand why you always make me a villain." Or, "If I said this, you would have lifted the sky on your head." Gradually the victim has always won in guilt. Every fight, every disappointment, every toxicity seems to blame themselves more. And toxic humans get emotional leverage, empathy, and control. This pattern can be seen in romantic relationships, attempts, co-working spaces, and even parent-child. Toxic parents, "We did everything for you. Today you only forgot us." Toxic bosses, "I'm sweating blood for the day-night company, yet no one counts me." Toxic partners, "Maybe happiness was not destined for me." Young adults or immigrants, especially South Asians in the USA, become victims of these tricks quickly because there is a slow family support or deep friendship circle, cultural distances, loneliness, or language barrier, and there are more people in need of emotional validation. This is the gap toxic manipulator needs, where you feel dependency or yearning for an approval, attention, or belonging. Between mind games, the confidence, decision-making of the victim, and the power to see the world from a different perspective, and slowly, the victim himself feels like a villain in his story, and the manipulator every time in the image of winner, misunderstood, or martyr. Toxic humans call their mind games truth-telling, honesty, care, or open communication. But his real purpose is to tie you permanently to your gravity emotionally, psychologically, and sometimes socially. Machiavellian attitude says, every time you have doubts about your identity, comfort, or confidence, or someone showing themselves as more prey, poorer, misunderstood, and villain, insensitive to you. So be careful, you are caught in a trap. The specialty of becoming a victim of these mind games is that by giving the opportunity to initially treat you as a golden child, best friend, or special lover. But when dependency becomes strong, subtle manipulation, doubt, and deep confusion begin. After this, you begin to disconnect from yourself, from your reality, and from your boundaries. Even on social media, toxic people show the variety of mind games. Ghosting, sudden blocking, attention withholding, subtly trolling, or publicly making fun of you. These are all new psychological weapons. When a toxic person starts mind games, the biggest trick is when the victim gradually begins to suspect himself. At first you don't understand. Things gradually get tangled up in validating your question or discord in every conversation, immediately striking back at every feedback to prove you are too sensitive or overreacting. In the US, where everyone has more culture of open therapy and speak your mind, irony is that toxic people play psychological games even more quickly because they're the game of self-awareness, in the name of pathological ego and radical honesty, in the name of uncontrolled blame shifting, goes very subtly. Now it comes to the project. This mind game is the ultimate weapon of toxic psyche. Project, i.e., putting your shortcomings, insecurities, or inner guilt on another. Every time it is like the real problem is the other. Suppose a toxic person is jealous inside himself. Then you will repeatedly accuse him that you are obviously jealous. If he himself is the least loyal, then every week you will accuse when your mind feels in other people. This leads to the victim repeatedly doubting himself, repeatedly questioning his intentions, honesty, or friendship. From the project, the toxic person avoids his guilt, insecurity, or dark side, and pushes the victim into insecurity, confusion, and hyper self-doubt. This is the most common mind game in the USA's relationship culture, dating apps, co-working situations, even house sharing or roommate life. Many times initially you will feel, wow, how open and self-aware I am to be a partner or friend. But in a few months realizing that you're always explaining, defending, overproving, or simply drained, and the front never lets itself be questioned. The project runs with a hidden manipulation moving the goalposts. Toxic people never fix what the ideologically enough limit of relationship, behavior, or effort is. Every time you complete their fresh demands, expectations, or quests with "if you loved me, you'd," new goal, new request, new complaint will come. This interview, office target, romantic affair, family dynamics, happens everywhere. The victim is always proving that I am worth, I did so honestly, and the toxic person never looks satisfied. In American hustle culture, peer pressure, or achievement race, this mind game is so hidden that people get on the brink of burnout, but do not realize that they are stuck in the never-ending hurdles created by someone else. Another mind game works along the same line, intermittent reinforcement. Toxic manipulator is never fair or harsh. Sometimes suddenly a lot of love, acknowledgement, special attention, then suddenly neglect, sarcasm, or coldness. The victim continues to get the loop of dopamine and anxiety. Unpredictable reward system, in which you repeatedly struggle to bring back that happy, loving, caring toxic. But every time you get cold shoulders, rejection, or criticism in reality, your inner hope, hookup, anxiety, and emotional addiction deepens. Mind game finally creates an isolation and dependence syndrome. The victim is deliberately put into social relative psychological dependence, so that dignity, self-worth, and perspective also stick to the validation of the same toxic human being. Often the toxic person starts distancing from others' friends, family, doubting in the decisions of the victim, increasing insecurities and loneliness. It becomes a closed, fear, guilt, and manipulation cycle. When you identify these mind games with every angle, it is understood that toxic relationship or toxic environment is not just about behavior, but about identity, confidence, and how to define yourself. Machiavellian psychology speaks clearly. Where you warn your gut feeling, body signals of repeated suffering, guilt, and exhaust you should immediately activate the shield of emotional distance, facts, and new perspective. The biggest antidote for emotional manipulators is to note the lack of pattern awareness and consistency. If the front repeats the cycle of same mind game, same guilt, same blame shift, it doesn't really show change or regret. Then you get confirmation that you are tied to some toxic stuff. When you're fighting a toxic person again and again, you don't get a sound like, I should avoid it for a moment. In fact, the effect of toxic mind games is in the mind, as if a slight poison in water, initially not detected. Gradually you start to feel guilty in everything, always sorry and anxious. In the USA, immigrants, first-gen college students, or young professionals become victims of such psychological prisons, because there is no desire for cultural shock, personal survival, and belonging. Where new society, new career, new together, but emotional support almost non-existing. Toxic manipulator secretly becomes your only anchor. The Machiavellian method first teaches to recognize and name these games. You have to catch the feeling of that original guilt, discord, or mental fatigue in words, like it was gaslighting, it's triangulation, or it's blaming projection, because the greatest power of psychology is naming the enemy. As you start watching these games on the pattern and the level of words, your subconscious starts to voice, why does this happen to me again and again? This is where the real armor is formed. Next, learn the boundaries and enforce. Boundaries are not just physical, but also psychological, communication, and expectation. Toxic people consider boundaries to be the greatest danger as soon as you start assertiveness, timing, or setting your limits. All of their manipulation gradually begins to weaken. The boundaries say, you are not entitled to hurt, gaslight, or guilt trip. My emotions, time, and decisions are mine. In the beginning, toxic people will be more guilty, manipulative, or dramatized. But if your boundaries are strong, they will automatically fade from your circle. The third weapon is detachment from outcome and validation. A lot of people get stuck in toxic trap just because they are very afraid of losing the validation, approval, or love of the person in front. This is the big game. If you stop taking validation from a toxic person, break emotional dependence, then its control automatically starts breaking down. This is a very painful process. Sometimes loneliness, pain, and guilt become extreme, but Machiavelli says, feel your pain, but don't pledge your identity to a manipulator. In the USA, where culture has amplified vulnerability and open sharing, it is important to find a personal space, therapy, self-journaling, and consciously supportive circle to get out of these mind games. No contact, gray rock, or minimal information sharing. These are the most successful techniques to get out of toxic relations in Western psychology. Gray rock become emotionless, neutral, boring, so that toxic person cannot remove attention or reaction from you. No contact cut all channels text, call, social media, family through lines. Initially difficult, but guaranteed long-term safety. One of the most revolutionary ways, pattern break. Every time a toxic person expects the same mind game, change the response. Say humor, sarcasm, or luck instead of your reaction. Keep records, write things down, collect facts and data. Documentation in the American workplace or home is also great. Practice self-affirmation. Remind your inner voice repeatedly that my truth is mine. I am not a slave to someone else's perspective or guilt. Women who respond to toxic mind games and self-respecting boundaries, routine, and neutral tones gradually come out of those traps. Best of all, as soon as your body, brain get freedom and clarity back, then decision-making, focus, energy, and motivation start returning themselves. The effect of toxic mind game is not always exaggerated, but gradually fade out of false guilt and dependence. The last lesson of the Machiavellian method is this: a manipulator rules in your mental territory, as long as you are afraid to fight a battle. From the day you learn the names, boundaries, and detachment, your mind returns to yours. Many people think that getting out of toxic mind games is magic or overnight healing. But the real truth is, this is the longest battle of the mind, in which recovery starts from within your own, not from the outside world. Often, even after a toxic relationship or friendship, a person struggles with guilt, loneliness, or emptiness, as if a part of identity has now disappeared. In the entire USA, or any developed society, most people are stuck despite therapy, coaching, or digital detox. Because they do not understand that after the real change disconnects, it takes to reset the habits and thinking. First step, radical honesty with self. Now leave out any excuses or things with he could be right. Write down all mind games, toxic patterns, and your responses in a diary, notebook, or voice memo. All unanswered questions, guilt, hurt, repeated triggers, manipulation of every time. This causes the mind to find clarity, and the false net of guilt-shame begins to weaken. Second step, identity rebuilding. Toxic games make the victim hollow and dependent. The real power of healing is when you define yourself on new parameters. Your time, energy, boundaries, independence, and personal standards will no longer be controlled by someone else's mood or approval. This is what the real law of Machiavelli says. The true strength of man lies not in his external politics, but in the psychology of the circle of his soul. Now focus on your decision, routine, habit, and even small achievements every day, whether it's a short daily walk or journaling or accepting your own needs. Third foundation, conscious social rebuilding. In the USA or global life, many people go into isolation or mistrust after toxic relations. Self-reflection, pause, or loneliness is essential, but come out of it and create a conscious community, friend, or support circle, where people do not manipulate your value, sincerely appreciate. Therapist, support group, or mentor, all of them will help you adapt to the new psychology from toxic scripts. Then comes the growth system. Now focus on converting that discord, uncertainty, or loneliness into productive pain. Machiavellian is always spoken on the platform. Don't just be afraid of pain, make it a system. Have a new skill, business, hobby, or fitness challenge for yourself, where there is no reward outcome, process, daily action, and internal shift. The fifth and largest principle is never negotiate with manipulators. If toxic man wants to return to your life again and again, influence you with every move of boundaries, guilt, or sentimentality. So understand clearly, every sweet promise, regret, or promises they make is just repetitive, not real change. Once that pattern understood, from there should be cutoff point. Say no, block contact, and create emotional closure for yourself. Long-term respect and peace are essential. The psychology of the USA speaks clearly without filter. Toxic mind games in Tumari life is a place to enter again and again. As long as your loyalty, kindness, or guilt is greater than your own logic. Self-respect and boundaries are always real shield. No manipulator, guilt tripper, or gaslighter can affect on the day they are filled inside. Now the last Machiavellian closure. If you really got out of the trap of toxic mind games, make that suffering, depression, or exhaustion an alert system inside you. All that pain, guilt, or regret now take the form of motivation. If a person becomes an indicator of shame, guilt, isolation, or confusion without reason. So the answer is just no, silence, distance, and ruthless self-focus. The real Machiavelli says, control in your hands, respect in your mind, trust